Mother series of games are a peculiar bunch. Each of them have their own oddball sense of humor, with inclusions of both subtle and not so subtle critiques of our dull modern society. Above all, however, is the sense of hope and eventual triumph. Despite outward appearances, the Mother series has not shied away from showing truly terrible circumstances, revolving around not just our main protagonist, but to the world's societies and their inhabitants. This hope in the face of ever-present danger is portrayed brilliantly in the game's soundtrack, particularly in Mother 3. As you all might be well aware, Mother 3 has yet to receive an official English release. A shame considering the game's emotional depth. All the three titles in the series convey a sort of throwback to the American 50s and 60s suburban culture in a rock and roll style. The combat is flashy, several characters themselves are associated with rock bands. A big emphasis is placed on music, composed by Shogo Sakai. That is why in Mother 3, an entire section is dedicated to how music and our memories are inseparably connected. Near the end of the game, the player reaches a stage called the Hall of Memories. The party hops on a boat and the song begins. If the player has gone through the previous entries in the Mother series, then the song that plays, Pollyanna, is immediately recognizable. In the first entry, this song marks the first overworld theme, played even before you earn your first party member. Even from the start of this journey, the song is tied with the player themselves. In Mother 2 or Earthbound, it is played in several remixes, but in Mother 3 it makes its triumphant return. The fact that the song is retitled A Certain Someone's Memories denotes that the someone is most likely pointing to the player themselves. As the song begins, wistful synths float in, then it hits. All the memories, characters, places, events, things, all of it comes rushing back to the player as soon as the explosive intro plays. A hopeful melody plays on top of a downward progression. This is particularly noteworthy as it touches upon the main theme of all the games, hope in the face of grim reality. The organ that kicks in near the end of the track conveys a message of a wish. Everything will be okay, as long as we're in this together. Everything's alright. Mother 3's version of Pollyanna uses a variety of off-kilter instruments not normally used in video game soundtracks, such as the steel drums and organ. The organ in particular, even though entirely synthesized, is used in a rock and roll aesthetic. The finger slides used for the organ give the song added exuberance. The song is in 4/4 time and includes two different tempos. The slower tempo at around 77 beats per minute, which accompanies the electric piano and synth strings, and a more driving tempo at around 124 BPM, propelling us into the main song. It's almost like there are two distinct songs that transition from one to the next. The instrumentation during the prelude is very sparse, only including the aforementioned electric piano and the synth strings. However, during the real introduction, 7 new instruments bring our ears some excitement. Melodies play a big part in Pollyanna. Each section contains a distinct melody that is easily memorable. Melodies constantly shift between a new instrument as well. The first being the iconic steel drums. The sound then shifts interestingly to a harmonica. And then in section B, it switches to an electric piano. And then the final instrument is the organ. The song structure doesn't follow a traditional path. First of all, you have 2 intros. Then you have 4 distinct sections, A, B, and C, and D, that never repeat any of their patterns throughout. The looping point is at the end of section D, where it loops back to this intro. The electric piano, the first sound that one would hear upon listening. In its short melodic content, it outlines the beginnings of the steel drum melody we will hear in the next section. And here's the steel drum melody. As you can see, this pattern is also repeated an octave up. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of the electric piano is the variance of the attack time. An attack time of an instrument determines how long the sound will begin. During the first 4 notes, the attack time is short, meaning that the notes are quickly introduced. And then in these next few notes, the attack time is lengthened, making the keyboard sound more like a pad than an actual piano. Another electric piano enters the mix during the intro, and it's doubled by the synth strings. Its function is to harmonize with the steel drums. The rhythm of the notes are exactly the same, as you can see, but the notes themselves are altered to make the song sound a bit less happy. The second instrument in the prelude, the strings, provide the cool and ambient warmness that support the electric piano. The chords it uses are simple, the first being a G major, the second being an A major, and then a D major and second inversion. And it repeats these. There's no extensions or much movement of the hands. In the intro, as I mentioned before, it doubles with the electric piano. It kind of gives the piano a more pad-like feeling. The ensemble strings, on the other hand, are only briefly used in section B. They harmonize with both the harmonica and the electric piano, giving a shimmering quality to that particular motif. Definitely one of the key instruments in Pollyanna, the drums are loud and expressive, featuring many altering kinds of crashes, hi-hats, splashes, and cymbals. The intro alone is worth a good look at, so let's see them there. As you can see, the crashes highlight both the down and the upbeats, with a tom fill at the end of each of these 4 measures. The final fill is a simple snare and double tom combo. Sometimes it's more effective to have a straightforward fill. For the main beat, the drum pattern is almost as simple as it gets, with the kick accenting the downbeats and the snare accenting the upbeats. Again, the snares here are pretty humble. Let me increase the tempo. In section B, the hi-hats are replaced by the cymbal rides. A cool, realistic technique that composers use is to put a short break between the crash and the first cymbal ride. So there wouldn't be a cymbal right here. So he removes that, and there's a more human-like expression here. The drum beat is also altered slightly, so there's a double kick on each measure. The final measure features a more extensive fill. Still pretty simple though. Section C definitely shifts things up. The kick and the snare are more spread out and accent the and beats, or the in-between beats. And in this third measure here, the rhythm increases as the drum adds more kicks. And after another short fill, we're back with the cymbal rides in section D. And with this sick hi-hat fill, it leads us back to the intro. The bass is perhaps the loudest instrument in the song. In the intro, the bass sits along with every percussive crash. And after that, it, what I call, anticipates each chord change by playing just before the chord. The pattern itself is interesting as it starts from the top of the key, which is D, it ascends downward, and then it quickly rises up. In section B, the bass enters double time, and it adds increased tension to the song. And in section C, it tones it back a bit and breathes a little more space to allow the organ to shine. It only plays 2 notes per measure here, but it slowly increases the amount of notes here. And in the next section, it returns to the double time bass. A rather peculiar instrument, the steel drums add an almost Caribbean flavor to the mix. Despite normally being relegated to strictly percussion, the steel drums act as melody here. The melody they do play is incredibly memorable. This could be because of the repetitious nature of it. See how this kind of form repeats here? But it includes a variance here, so it doesn't sound too monotonous. As mentioned above, the organ implements a wholly unique finger slide, replicating the energy of a rock and roll musician. This also adds a human touch despite the synthesization. So what I mean is in section C, you have these finger slides introduction. And it repeats here. And here's the finger slide. Having this melody played flat would just dampen the listening experience. Additional organs are also heard in the background during all the other sections. They often harmonize with other lead instruments, just such as in section A, where it harmonizes with the harmonica. Section B, where it harmonizes with the electric piano. And then section D, at the end, it harmonizes with the harmonica again. Arguably the primary instrument, the harmonica owns most of the melodies. There are repeated notes, a clever trick musicians use to ensure a melody remains in memory long after the song ends. So in this first section, you see that it doubles these first 2 notes. And like the steel drum melody, it repeats the second time around. It has a little bit of a break during sections B and C, but it returns in section D. It continues the energy generated by the previous verse. The acoustic guitar is mostly relegated to adding texture. The punchy rhythm of the acoustic complements the rest of the instruments. It goes all the way throughout the entire song. Speaking of rhythm, it's mostly constant strumming. The chords themselves stabilize the existing instruments. Because the synthetic acoustic package I initially used didn't sound quite right, the recording I used for this cover was recorded with a live acoustic guitar. For the effects, panning is definitely used to great effect to get a better stereo sounding mix. The first prelude is the only section that is basically in mono. So the electric keyboard and the synth strings are up the center. However, this purpose is that when the actual intro does come into play, the song sounds a lot more layered as a result. So you have the synth strings that are up the left. So they were initially panned to the center, but I pushed them to the left in the intro. Then you have the drums up the center. Then the bass is a bit to the upper right. You have the organ to the right. Then a little bit of a grand piano to the left, and the acoustic guitar to the left. And the last instrument, the harmonica, or the steel drums are up the center. Now normally the bass should be center pan, but in this song it's, as you see, slightly upright. This could be because the composer wanted the bass to oppose the electric piano that's opposite in stereo. Section A strips some of the stereo width away as it focuses mainly on the harmonica melody, which comes up the middle. And during the second part of this section, the organ comes up the left. The next section is interesting as well, as it brings the electric keyboard to the left and the organ up the middle. So here's the organ, piano, and then the strings enter. Now there is some dissonance in section C, as both the organ and the acoustic guitar dominate the left channel. And you only have this short repeating bass in the right channel. However, in section D, the center pan harmonica returns, and is later contrasted by the left pan organ. There are not too many effects that were added overall to the song. The ones you might see on the right side here are mostly EQs and some distortion on the bass and the organ. However, this was mainly done by me to try and capture the same sounds of the original song, while also providing clarity by removing frequencies that were unnecessary. One of the more prominent effects, though, is the delay during the prelude on the electric keyboard. Let me solo that here. So for the delay, I used the standard plugin for the FL Studio, and I have the time set to 1 second. There are a certain few instruments that really jump out at you in terms of volume, that being the bass, drums, steel drums, and harmonica. It's clear that the rhythm section was given the most space in the mix, with the melodies being in a close second. I also found that the left channel in general was a lot more louder than the right, although the bass does account for a large portion of the right channel's volume. I also used a few automation curves to alter some of the instruments, such as the tempo, which I raised to 124, and the volume of the snare roll. I also adjusted the organ panning during section B and raised it more to the middle. And for the electric piano attack, this is where I adjusted how long the attack would be. In this frequencies shift, I adjusted with as you can see here for the synth string, I have this turned off, but when it reaches the intro, it turns on. Now, of course, before we leave here, I'll play the entire song in full so you can see all the parts together, and I'll highlight each section. Haven't tried the Mother series after all this, I highly urge you to find a copy. Mother 2 and 3 especially hold a unique place in the hearts of thousands. This song is just one of the reasons why. Nearly all the melodies of the various instruments are recognizable, and these melodies are strengthened by the impressive, yet modest drum work on the song. If you enjoyed this musical analysis, I encourage you to watch my other videos on both Paper Mario 64 and Perfect Dark, two classic N64 titles with fantastic soundtracks. Ask me below what other video game songs you would like me to analyze. I hope to see you all soon in the next video. Goodbye.